My sister-in-law slapped my daughter across the face over a math test score. She thought her status as family would protect her from consequences. She was wrong. I documented the injuries, filed a police report, and then I legally destroyed the life she took for granted. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The silence in my car was usually something I cherished. As a pediatric nurse working 12-hour shifts at the city hospital, my days were a cacophony of beeping monitors, crying toddlers, and the anxious questions of terrified parents. The drive to my brother Nathan's house to pick up my daughter Lily was supposed to be my decompression chamber, a 20-minute window to switch from Nurse Lauren back to Mom. But tonight, the silence felt heavy. It felt like the drop in barometric pressure right before a tornado touches down. I pulled into the driveway of the modest 2-story craftsman house. It was a beautiful home, one that I knew intimately because I had bought it 5 years ago as an investment property. I let Nathan and his wife, Monica, live there for a fraction of the market rent because family helps family. That was the code I lived by. That was the code I thought we all lived by. The porch light was off, which was strange. It was barely 7 in the evening in late autumn. The sun had long since set, and usually the house was blazing with light. Monica was obsessed with appearances. A dark house looked uninviting, and Monica never wanted to appear uninviting. I killed the engine and stepped out, the gravel crunching loudly under my nursing clogs. Before I could even reach the front steps, the front door swung open. It was Monica standing there with her usual tight, practiced smile. It was Lily. My 11-year-old daughter stood in the doorway, her backpack slung over one shoulder, clutching her math workbook to her chest like a shield. The porch light flickered on, illuminating her face, and my heart stopped in my chest. It was a physical sensation, a sudden, brutal seizing of the cardiac muscle that I had seen on EKG monitors 1,000 times, but never felt with such violent intensity. Lily was crying, not the tantrum tears of a younger child, and not the dramatic tears of a preteen denied a sleepover. These were silent, terrified tears streaming down a face that was mottled and red. Lily, I dropped my keys. The sound of them hitting the concrete was deafening. Honey. She didn't run to me. She walked, stiffly, her eyes darting back toward the interior of the house as if she were afraid something, or someone, was going to snatch her back. When she reached me, I fell to my knees right there on the driveway, disregarding the sharp gravel biting into my scrubs. Mom, she whispered, her voice cracking. I reached out to cup her face, my nursing instincts fighting a war with my maternal panic. My eyes scanned her instantly, pupils equal and reactive, airway clear, and then I saw it. On the left side of her face, blooming across her pale cheek like a grotesque flower, was a bright red mark. It was distinct. I could see the ridges where fingers had made contact. The skin was hot to the touch, and there was a slight swelling around her zygomatic arch, her cheekbone. Who did this? My voice was low, terrifyingly calm. It was the voice I used when a patient was crashing, and I needed the room to clear immediately. Lily trembled, leaning her head into my hand, flinching slightly as my thumb grazed the inflamed skin. She looked over my shoulder at the house, where the front door was still open. I could see a shadow moving in the hallway. Auntie Monica, Lily sobbed, the words tumbling out in a rush of air. She hit me, Mom. She hit me really hard. The world tilted on its axis. My brain struggled to process the syntax of the sentence. Auntie Monica hit me. It didn't make sense. Monica was intense, yes. She was competitive, absolutely. But violence? Physical assault. Why? I asked, pulling Lily into my chest, wrapping my arms around her so tightly I feared I might hurt her myself. Why did she touch you? Lily buried her face in my shoulder, her tears soaking through the thin fabric of my scrub top. Because of the math test, she choked out. Because I got a 98, and Noah only got a B. I looked up at the house. The shadow in the hallway stopped moving. Monica stepped into the doorframe. She was holding a glass of wine, her posture rigid, her silhouette framed by the warm light of the hallway she hadn't bothered to turn on until now. She didn't look sorry. She looked justified. She took a sip of her wine and watched us, staring down from the porch like a queen surveying a peasant revolt. The rage that filled me wasn't hot, it was absolute zero. It was the cold, sterile anger of a surgeon cutting out a tumor. I stood up, keeping Lily tucked firmly under my arm. I didn't scream. I didn't charge the porch. I didn't shout obscenities that would have frightened my daughter further. I just stared at her. I memorized the way she stood there, the arrogance in her tilt, the dismissal in her eyes. "Get in the car, Lily," I said softly. "Mom, I forgot my jacket inside," Lily whispered. "We don't need it," I said, never breaking eye contact with the woman on the porch. "We're going to the hospital." The betrayal didn't feel like a knife in the back. It felt like an amputation. It was cleaner, deeper, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that the relationship I had with my brother's family had just been severed forever. The betrayal was worse than the diagnosis itself. The drive to the urgent care center was a blur of streetlights and white-knuckled gripping of the steering wheel. I kept the radio off. The only sound was Lily's occasional sniffle and the hum of the engine. "Does it hurt?" I asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "It throbs a little," Lily said, her voice small. "My ear is ringing too." That detail made my stomach clench. Tinnitus. That meant the force of the blow had been significant enough to affect the ear canal or the drum. This wasn't a tap. This wasn't a playful swat. This was a full-force strike from a grown woman against an 11-year-old child. I pulled into the urgent care lot, not the hospital where I worked. I needed distance. I needed neutrality. I didn't want my colleagues treating my daughter. I wanted a paper trail created by strangers who had no bias, no reason to downplay the severity of what they saw. "Mom, am I in trouble?" Lily asked as I turned off the car. The question broke my heart into 1,000 jagged pieces. "No, baby, no, you are the victim here. You did absolutely nothing wrong. Do you hear me? Nothing." We walked inside. The fluorescent lights of the waiting room were harsh, unforgiving. I walked up to the reception desk, my badge still clipped to my scrubs. The receptionist looked tired, but she perked up when she saw the uniform. Professional courtesy. "Name and reason for visit," she asked. "Lily, 11 years old, physical assault, facial trauma and tinnitus." I recited the clinical terms robotically. The receptionist's eyes widened. She looked from me to Lily, seeing the red handprint that was now darkening into a bruise against her pale skin. She didn't ask who did it. She just typed furiously, "We'll get you back immediately." In the exam room, I stood in the corner, arms crossed, forcing myself to be an observer rather than a participant. I watched the doctor, a kind man named Dr. Evans, shine a light into Lily's ears. "The drum looks intact, but there is some redness," Dr. Evans said, noting it on his chart. He turned to Lily. "And you said you feel dizzy." "A little," Lily said. "Mild concussion protocol," he murmured, writing it down. Then he turned to me. "Mom, obviously, given the nature of the injury, the shape of the bruising, we are mandated reporters. I have to ask, did this happen at home?" "It happened at her aunt's home," I said clearly. "My sister-in-law struck her. I want that documented explicitly in the chart. Assault by paternal aunt." Dr. Evans nodded grimly. "I will include photos for the file. And, are you planning to involve law enforcement?" "Yes," I said, "tonight." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. A continuous vibration against my thigh. I knew who it was. It was either Nathan, trying to smooth things over, or Monica, trying to gaslight me before I could react. I finally pulled the phone out. 5 missed calls from Nathan, 2 text messages from Monica. I opened Monica's text first. "Monica, you're overreacting." She was being a disrespectful brat about her grades and rubbing it in Noah's face. I disciplined her. Don't make this a thing, Lauren. We're family. Monica, don't ignore me. Bring her back so she can apologize to Noah. I stared at the screen, reading the words over and over. Apologize to Noah? She had physically assaulted my child, and she wanted my daughter to apologize to her son. The delusion was so profound it was almost impressive. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot of the texts. Then I emailed the screenshot to my work account and backed it up to the cloud. Next, I opened the camera app on my phone. Dr. Evans, I said, do you mind if I take my own photos while the lighting is good? Go ahead, he said, stepping aside. I took close-ups of Lily's cheek. The bruise was turning a sickly purple now, the outline of 4 fingers and a thumb clearly visible. It was a brand, a mark of ownership and aggression. Nathan called again. I let it ring. He left a voicemail. I held the phone to my ear, listening to my brother's voice while watching my daughter hold an ice pack to her face. Elor. Pick up. Monica says you peeled out of the driveway like a maniac. Look, she's upset, okay? Lily was. Well, Monica says Lily was being really difficult about the test scores. You know how sensitive Monica is about Noah's struggles. Let's just cool off tonight and talk tomorrow. Don't do anything crazy. Love you. Don't do anything crazy. That was the phrase that sealed his fate. He wasn't asking if Lily was okay. He wasn't asking if his niece, his flesh and blood, had a concussion. He was managing his wife. He was doing what he always did, minimizing Monica's toxicity to keep the peace in his own house. He had forgotten one crucial thing. He had forgotten that his house wasn't actually his. The deed, the mortgage, and the insurance were all in my name. The lease agreement was month to month, a favor I had extended to help them save money while Nathan started his consulting business. They lived in my house. They drove a car that I had co-signed for. They enjoyed a life subsidized by my long hours and careful saving. Nathan thought he was calling his little sister, the pushover nurse who always fixed everyone's boo-boos. He didn't realize he was talking to his landlord, and the landlord had just found a violation of the lease that couldn't be fixed with a coat of paint. To understand why a grown woman would slap an 11-year-old over a math grade, you have to understand the dynamic between Monica and me. Or rather, the dynamic between Monica and the world. Nathan and I had always been close. Our parents died when I was in my early 20s and he was in his late 20s. We clung to each other like shipwreck survivors. I was the steady one, the planner, the saver. Nathan was the dreamer, the charismatic one who always had a big idea just around the corner. When Nathan met Monica 7 years ago, I tried to like her. I really did. She was beautiful, polished, and presented herself as the ultimate domestic goddess. She didn't work outside the home, which was fine, lots of parents don't, but she made stay-at-home mom into a competitive sport. Her entire identity was wrapped up in being the perfect mother to Noah. Noah was my nephew, and I loved him dearly. He was a sweet, quiet boy who loved dinosaurs and drawing, but Monica needed him to be a genius. She needed him to be the star athlete, the top scholar, the most popular kid. She needed him to be a reflection of her own greatness. The problem was Noah was average, and I say that with love. He was a perfectly normal, average kid. He struggled with reading, he hated sports, and he preferred video games to chess club. Lily, on the other hand, was sharp. She was academically gifted, fiercely independent, and naturally athletic. I never pushed her. If anything, I had to tell her to slow down. I worked long hours, so Lily learned to be self-sufficient early. And Monica hated her for it. For years, it was just microaggressions. At Christmas dinner 3 years ago, "Oh, Lauren, it's so sad that you have to work so much." Lily basically raising herself explain why she's so aggressive in her mannerisms. Noah is much more gentle because he has a mother present. At a birthday party, we don't allow refined sugar for Noah. It affects the cognitive development. I guess since Lily is already in public school, it doesn't matter as much for her. I swallowed these insults. I swallowed them because Nathan looked happy. I swallowed them because I wanted Lily to have cousins. I swallowed them because I was busy paying off my own loans and buying the investment property that they eventually moved into when Nathan's startup failed and they needed a place to live. But as the kids got older, the academic gap widened. We lived in a district with a highly competitive magnet middle school program. Admission was based on a standardized test taken in the 5th grade, the test they had just taken last week. Monica had spent thousands of dollars on tutors for Noah. She had him doing prep courses for months. I had bought Lily a study guide from a bookstore and helped her with flashcards when I got off shift. The results had been released online today. Lily had scored in the 99th percentile. She was guaranteed a spot. Noah had scored in the 75th percentile. A good score, a respectable score, but not enough for the magnet program. I pieced together the scene in my head as I watched Lily sitting on the exam table, holding the cold pack to her cheek. "Lily," I asked gently, "what exactly happened before she hit you?" Lily sniffled. We were at the kitchen table. Noah was crying because Auntie Monica was yelling at him about the test. She was telling him he was lazy. I felt bad, Mom. I told Noah it was okay, that the test was really hard. I tried to help. "And what did Auntie Monica say?" "She screamed at me," Lily whispered. "She said, 'Shut up, you little know-it-all. You think you're better than him just because your mother ignores you enough to let you study all day.'" My jaw tightened. "I told her that wasn't true," Lily continued, her voice trembling. I said maybe if she didn't scream at Noah so much, he could concentrate better. That's when she hit me." The audacity, the sheer, unadulterated malice. Monica couldn't handle that her curated, expensive efforts had failed while my neglected daughter had succeeded. So she punished the success. She tried to beat the superiority out of my child to protect her own fragile ego. She was a bully in beige cashmere. She had targeted the one thing in this world that I would burn cities to protect. She thought that because she was family, because she was the wife of my beloved brother, she had immunity. She thought I would prioritize the peace of the family unit over the safety of my child. She was about to learn that peace was no longer on the table. War had just been declared. "We're done here," I told Dr. Evans as he handed me the discharge papers. "Thank you for everything." "Take care of her," he said, "and good luck with the police." I took Lily's hand. We walked out of the urgent care and into the cool night air. The wind had picked up, biting at my face, but I didn't feel the cold. I felt the weight of my phone in my pocket, the phone that contained the lease agreement, the text messages, and the number for the non-emergency police line. I wasn't going home to sleep. I was going to the precinct. And tomorrow, I was calling a lawyer. Monica wanted to talk about consequences for grades. I was about to give her a masterclass in consequences for actions. The police station smelled of stale coffee and industrial floor cleaner, a scent profile not entirely unlike the hospital, but without the underlying notes of antiseptic and illness. It was a smell that signaled bureaucracy, waiting, and bad news. I sat on a hard plastic chair, Lily next to me. She had stopped crying, but she was quiet, withdrawn in a way that scared me more than the tears. She was scrolling mindlessly on her phone, disassociating from the reality of where we were. "Lauren." I looked up. A female officer with a kind face and a no-nonsense bun stood at the doorway of the interview room. Her badge read Officer Miller. "That's me," I said, standing up. "This is my daughter, Lily." Officer Miller nodded, her eyes softening as she looked at the bruise on Lily's cheek. It had darkened significantly in the hour since we left urgent care, turning a deep, angry violet. "Come on back." The interview was exhaustive. I expected it to be quick, a statement, a signature, and goodbye, but Officer Miller was thorough. She separated us for a few minutes to talk to Lily alone, a standard protocol to ensure I wasn't coaching her. Those 10 minutes were the longest of my life. I sat in the hallway, staring at a poster about community watch programs, wondering if I was doing the right thing. Was I destroying my family? The voice of doubt was Nathan's voice in my head. Don't be crazy, Lauren. It's just a family spat. But then I looked at the photos on my phone again. I zoomed in on the handprint on my child's face. This wasn't a spat. This was assault. And if I didn't draw the line here in permanent ink, what would happen next time? What if she pushed Lily down the stairs? What if she threw something? Officer Miller called me back in. Lily looked small in the chair, but she gave me a weak smile. "Mrs. Davis," Officer Miller said, sitting down and clasping her hands over a file. "Lily has given a very clear, consistent account of what happened. It matches the physical evidence and the medical report you provided from urgent care. We have enough here to charge Monica with simple assault and battery on a minor. We can also notify Child Protective Services for a welfare check regarding the other child in the home." The mention of CPS made my stomach turn. Noah, my nephew, he was innocent in this, but he was living with a woman who couldn't control her violent impulses. "Do it," I said, my voice steady. "Do whatever is necessary to ensure safety." "We will pay them a visit tonight," Officer Miller said. "However, I need to ask you about immediate safety. Is there any reason Monica would come looking for you or Lily tonight?" "She thinks I'm overreacting," I said, pulling up the text messages on my phone. "She sent me these." I showed the officer the texts. "You're overreacting?" She was being a disrespectful brat. Bring her back so she can apologize. Officer Miller's eyebrows shot up. "She wants the victim to apologize? That shows a distinct lack of remorse and a distorted perception of the event. I'm going to recommend you file for a temporary restraining order immediately. A judge is on call tonight. We can help you with the paperwork." I nodded. "I'll do it." As we filled out the forms, a cold realization settled over me. A restraining order would mandate that Monica stay a certain distance away from Lily and me, but there was a logistical complication. I owned the house Monica lived in. If I needed to visit my property, or if I needed to manage the asset, a restraining order would make that complicated, unless I removed the variable. I finished the police report and drove us home. Lily fell asleep in the car, exhausted by the trauma. When I carried her into the house and tucked her into bed, I didn't go to sleep myself. I went to my home office. I pulled a file from the fireproof cabinet marked Real Estate, 1402 Oak Street. Inside was the lease agreement. It was a standard California Association of Realtors residential lease, month to month. I had given them a sweetheart deal, $800 a month for a 3-bedroom house in a district where rent averaged $3,500. I scanned the document, my eyes hunting for the specific clauses I needed. Clause 14, Tenant Conduct. Tenant shall not disturb, annoy, endanger, or interfere with other tenants or neighbors. Tenant shall not use the premises for any unlawful purpose. Assaulting the landlord's daughter was certainly endangering. It was definitely unlawful. I looked at the clock. It was 1:00 a.m. I picked up my phone and drafted an email to my real estate attorney, Sarah, whom I had known since nursing school before she pivoted to law. Subject: Emergency Eviction Restraining Order Violation. Sarah, I need to serve a 30-day notice to vacate to my brother and his wife immediately. Actually, I want to know if I can do a 3-day notice to quit based on nuisance or illegal activity. Monica assaulted Lily tonight. Police report filed. Charges pending. I want them out. Prepare the paperwork first thing in the morning. I hit send. I wasn't just a sister anymore. I wasn't just a nurse. I was a landlord dealing with a liability, and I was about to close the account. The confrontation didn't happen over the phone. It happened on my front porch at 7:15 a.m. the next morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee, my eyes gritty from lack of sleep when the doorbell rang. It didn't just ring, someone was leaning on it. The frantic, rhythmic buzzing filled the house. I checked the security camera feed on my phone. It was Nathan, He looked terrible. His hair was disheveled, he was wearing the same clothes he'd had on yesterday, and he was pacing back and forth on my welcome mat. I checked on Lily. She was still sound asleep, thank God. I closed her bedroom door softly, walked down the hall, and opened the front door. I stepped out and pulled it shut behind me, crossing my arms. "Lauren," Nathan breathed, looking relieved and terrified at the same time. He reached out to hug me. I took a step back. The rejection hit him like a physical blow. He froze, his arms hovering in empty space. "Don't," I said. "Lauren, please," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "The police came to the house last night. A squad car, Lauren in the driveway. The neighbors were watching. They questioned Monica for an hour. They went into Noah's room and woke him up to check him for bruises. Do you have any idea how traumatic that was for him?" The irony was so thick I could taste it. "Traumatic?" I repeated, my voice rising slightly. "You want to talk about trauma? Your wife slapped my daughter across the face hard enough to cause a concussion, Nathan. She hit her because she got an A on a math test. And you're here worried about the neighbors seeing a squad car." "She didn't mean to hurt her," Nathan shouted, then lowered his voice, looking around nervously. "Look, Monica has been under a lot of stress. She snapped. It was wrong. I told her it was wrong, but calling the cops, filing a report, that gives her a criminal record, Lauren. That ruins her reputation." "She ruined her own reputation when she put her hands on a child," I said coldly. "She's family," Nathan argued, his face flushing red. "You don't call the cops on family, you handle it in-house. We could have sat down, had a discussion. Monica is willing to apologize. Well, she's willing to talk about it." "She texted me telling me to make Lily apologize," I said, holding up my phone. "Is that your version of willing to talk?" Nathan rubbed his face with his hands. She's defensive right now. She feels attacked because Lily... Look, you know how Monica is. She feels like Lily is constantly rubbing her success in Noah's face. It's hard for a mother to watch her son struggle while his cousin glides through everything." I stared at him. For the first time, I truly saw my brother. He wasn't the victim of a shrewish wife. He was an accomplice. He was validating her delusion to protect his own comfort. He was blaming my daughter's hard work for his wife's insecurity. "Lily doesn't glide," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "She studies while you and Monica are watching TV. She works while Monica is getting pedicures. And you know what? None of that matters. Because there is no universe, Nathan, none, where child's grades justify physical assault." Okay, Nathan said, putting his hands up. "I get it. You're angry. You have a right to be, but you have to drop the charges. Please, for me, for Noah. If she gets a record, it affects everything. It affects my business reputation." I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "I can't drop the charges, Nathan. The state picked them up, but even if I could, I wouldn't." "So that's it," Nathan snapped, his sadness turning to anger. "You're going to destroy my family over one mistake." "No," I said softly. "I'm going to protect mine. And Nathan, there's something else." He looked at me warily. "What?" "I spoke to my lawyer this morning." Nathan looked confused. "Your lawyer for the assault?" "No," I said, "my real estate lawyer." The color drained from his face. He knew instantly what that meant. "Lauren, no, you can't." "The lease is clear," I said, reciting the clause I had memorized. "Tenant shall not endanger other tenants or neighbors. She assaulted the landlord's daughter. That is a breach of lease. I am terminating your tenancy." "We have nowhere to go," Nathan cried. "We can't afford a place in this district. Noah's school is here." "Then you should have thought about that before you let your wife abuse the person who subsidizes your life," I said. "You have 30 days. But honestly, Nathan, if I were you, I'd move faster. Because once the restraining order is served later today, Monica won't be allowed within 100 yards of Lily. And since Lily visits my rental properties with me for inspections, Monica is going to have a very hard time living in a house she's legally barred from being near if Lily is present." Nathan looked at me with pure hatred. You're a monster, she's your sister-in-law. She's a stranger, I corrected him. And you're starting to look like one too. I stepped back inside and slammed the door in his face. I leaned against the wood, my heart hammering, shaking from the adrenaline. It was done. The bridge wasn't just burned, I had dynamited the foundation. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in escalation. Nathan didn't move out immediately. Instead, Monica went on the offensive. It started with a Facebook post. Monica didn't name me directly, she was too savvy for that. But she wrote a long, rambling dissertation about toxic family members who use money to control people and weaponize the legal system against struggling mothers. The comments section was filled with her friends, other moms from the PTA who didn't know the truth, offering support. Stay strong, mama. Jealousy is an ugly disease, hun, ignore them. She was spinning a narrative that I was the aggressor, that I was a jealous, childless spinster, ignoring the fact that I had a child who was trying to break up her happy home because I was miserable. Then came the flying monkeys. My Aunt Linda, who lived 3 states away and hadn't called me on my birthday in a decade, called me on a Tuesday afternoon while I was at work. Lauren, I heard what you're doing to Nathan, she scolded without preamble. Evicting your own brother, in this economy, and calling the police on Monica, she said she barely touched the girl. She gave her a concussion, Aunt Linda, I said, typing charting notes as I spoke. I have photos, I have medical records. Do you want me to email them to you? Well, kids play rough, Linda stammered. Monica is 40 years old, I deadpanned. She is not a kid playing rough. She is an adult who committed battery, and Nathan is enabling it. If you're so concerned, you can take them in. I hung up, I didn't have the bandwidth for it. But Monica wasn't done. 4 days after I served the eviction notice, which I had done via a professional process server to avoid a scene, I got a call from the school principal. Ms. Davis, we had a disturbing call from your sister-in-law, Mrs. Davis, the principal said. Her voice was cautious. She claimed that Lily cheated on the entrance exam. She alleged that you, being a nurse, somehow obtained performance-enhancing drugs for your daughter to help her focus. I gripped the phone so hard the plastic case creaked. That is a lie, I said, my voice shaking with fury. A malicious, retaliatory lie. Monica is currently facing assault charges for striking Lily. She is being evicted from my property. This is harassment. We assumed as much, the principal said, her tone shifting to sympathy. Given Lily's consistent academic record, the accusation holds no water, but I wanted you to know the length she is going to. Thank you, I said. Please document that call. I will be adding it to the file for the permanent restraining order hearing. That was the mistake Monica made. She thought the social court of public opinion mattered. She thought if she threw enough mud, I would back down to save face. She didn't realize she was just giving me more ammunition. I called my lawyer, Sarah, immediately. She called the school? Sarah asked, incredulous. Is she trying to lose custody of her own kid? Lauren, this is defamation. And it's definitely a violation of the no-contact spirit of the TRO, even if she didn't contact Lily directly. She's targeting the protected person. Add it to the stack, I said. We have the hearing for the permanent restraining order in 2 days. I want everything there. The texts, the medical report, the police report, the eviction notice, and now the school incident. We're going to bury her, Sarah said. The day before the hearing, I went to the house. I had given the legally required 24-hour notice of inspection. I brought a police escort, Officer Miller, who had agreed to come along to keep the peace. I needed to inspect the property for damages before they moved out. When we pulled up, the driveway was full of boxes. Nathan was loading a U-Haul. He looked 10 years older than he had a month ago. He saw the police car and just put his head down, continuing to carry a box of books. I walked up the driveway, Officer Miller a few paces behind me. Monica was standing on the porch. She wasn't the smug queen holding a glass of wine anymore. She was wearing sweatpants, her hair in a messy knot, her face puffy from crying or screaming or both. When she saw me, her eyes narrowed. "You happy?" she spat. "You happy you made my son homeless?" "You made your son homeless," I corrected her, stopping at the bottom of the steps. "You made him homeless the second you decided your ego was more important than my daughter's safety." "I helped you," she screamed, her voice shrill and breaking. "I took care of this house. I let Lily come over here." "You lived here for 1/3 of the rent," I said calmly. "And you hit my child. Step aside, Monica. I'm here to inspect the walls." "You can't come in here," she shrieked, blocking the door. Officer Miller stepped forward, her hand resting casually on her belt. "Ma'am, the property owner has given legal notice. You cannot obstruct her access. If you do, I will have to arrest you for violation of the lease and obstruction. Again." Monica looked at the officer, then at Nathan. "Nathan," she yelled, "do something. Are you going to let her walk in here like she owns the place?" Nathan stopped at the back of the U-Haul. He looked at his wife, then at me. He looked at the house he was losing. "She does own the place, Monica," Nathan said, his voice defeated and quiet. "Just move." Monica gasped as if he had slapped her. She stepped aside, trembling with rage. I walked into my house. It was a mess. There were holes in the drywall where pictures had been ripped down carelessly. The carpet was stained, but the structure was sound. As I walked through the living room, I saw something on the kitchen counter. It was a stack of papers. Monica's evidence for the court hearing tomorrow. I glanced at the top sheet. It was a printed email from my parents' old estate lawyer. I paused. I knew I shouldn't look, but it was out in the open. It was a draft of a lawsuit. Monica was planning to sue me for unjust enrichment, claiming that the money I used to buy this house was actually money that should have gone to Nathan from our parents' inheritance years ago. It was complete nonsense. Our parents died with debt, and I made my money through overtime and frugal living, but it showed her hand. She wasn't just trying to defend herself. She was trying to take everything I had. She wanted a war. She was bringing a water pistol to a nuclear standoff. I walked back out. "Inspection complete," I said to Nathan. "I'll be deducting the drywall repairs from the security deposit, not that there will be much left." I looked at Monica one last time. "See you in court tomorrow," I said. The county courthouse was a monolith of gray stone and intimidation. It was a place designed to make you feel small, to remind you that your personal tragedies were just file numbers in a system that ground on endlessly. I sat at the plaintiff's table, my hands clasped tightly in my lap to stop them from shaking. Sarah, my lawyer, sat beside me, radiating a calm, predatory confidence. She had organized our evidence into 3 neat binders. On the other side of the aisle sat Monica. She had transformed again. Gone was the screaming banshee from the porch, and gone was the arrogant queen from the driveway. Today, she was playing the role of the martyr mother. She wore a modest navy dress, a cardigan, and minimal makeup. She looked fragile. She looked like a victim. Nathan sat behind her in the gallery, not at the defendant's table. He looked like a ghost. He was staring at the floor, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Holloway with glasses perched on the end of her nose, called the session to order. This was the hearing for the permanent restraining order. If G. granted, it would legally bar Monica from coming near Lily or me for up to 5 years. It would cement her status as a danger to our family. Monica's lawyer, a court-appointed public defender who looked overworked and underprepared, stood up first. "Your Honor," he began, "my client, Mrs. Davis, admits there was a physical altercation. However, we argue that a permanent restraining order is excessive. This was an isolated incident of parental discipline that went too far, exacerbated by extreme provocation from the minor child. Furthermore, the petitioner, Ms. Lauren Davis, is using this order as a weapon to unlawfully evict my client and gain leverage in a separate civil dispute regarding family inheritance." There it was, the lie, the muddying of the waters. Judge Holloway looked over her glasses at Monica. Provocation, the child is 11, correct? Yes, Your Honor, Monica spoke up, her voice trembling, a perfectly rehearsed quiver. Lily has always been difficult. She taunts my son Noah, who has learning disabilities. That night she was mocking him for failing a test. I snapped. I wanted to protect my son from her bullying. I know I shouldn't have slapped her, and I am willing to take parenting classes, but I am not a danger to society. Lauren is just trying to punish me because she hates that I married her brother. It was a good performance. If I didn't know the truth, I might have believed her. She made herself sound like a protective mother pushed to the brink by a mean-spirited cousin and a vindictive sister-in-law. Sarah squeezed my arm under the table. Our turn, she whispered. Sarah stood up. She didn't use flowery language. She used paper. Your Honor, Sarah said, we are not here to discuss family dynamics or imaginary inheritance disputes. We are here to discuss facts. And the facts are that the respondent struck an 11-year-old child with enough force to cause a concussion and tinnitus. She handed the first binder to the bailiff. Exhibit A, urgent care medical records dated the night of the incident. Note the doctor's observations of the bruising pattern. This was not a swat. This was a full-force blow to the head. The judge flipped through the pages, her face impassive. Exhibit B, Sarah continued, her voice hardening. Text messages sent by the respondent immediately after the assault. Please note that she does not apologize. She demands the victim return to the house to apologize to her. This demonstrates a lack of remorse and a distorted view of reality that poses a continued risk to the child. Monica shifted in her seat. The fragile victim mask slipped for a second, a flash of annoyance crossing her face. And finally, Sarah said, dropping the heavy artillery, Exhibit C, a sworn affidavit from Principal Henderson of Northwood Middle School, dated 2 days ago. Monica froze. She hadn't known we had this. 2 days ago, Sarah said, addressing the judge, while a temporary restraining order was in effect, the respondent called the minor child's school. She attempted to have the child's academic record expunged by claiming, without a shred of evidence, that the petitioner, a licensed nurse, was drugging her daughter with performance enhancers. This was a malicious attempt to destroy the child's reputation and the petitioner's career. This is not the behavior of a remorseful mother. This is the behavior of an obsessed, vindictive individual who will stop at nothing to harm this family. The courtroom went silent. The air left the room. Judge Holloway looked up from the affidavit. Her eyes drilled into Monica. Mrs. Davis, the judge asked, her voice dangerously quiet, did you call the school? Monica stood up, her face flushing red. I was just concerned. It's not normal for a child to get those grades without help. I was just asking a question. You accused a medical professional of drugging a child, the judge snapped. That is not asking a question. That is harassment. Then the judge looked at the gallery. Mr. Davis, you are the father of the other child involved and the brother of the petitioner. Please stand. Nathan stood up slowly. He looked like he was walking to the gallows. Your wife claims that your niece, Lily, brutally bullied your son, provoking this attack, the judge said. Is that true? Is your niece a bully? This was the moment, the pivot point of our entire history as siblings. Monica turned around, her eyes wide, silently commanding him to support her lie. Lie for me, her eyes screamed. Save me. Nathan looked at Monica. He looked at the woman who had isolated him from his family, who had spent his money, who had hit his niece. Then he looked at me. He saw the sister who had paid his rent, who had tutored his son, who had always been there. He took a deep breath. No, Your Honor, Nathan said, his voice quiet but clear. I can't hear you, sir, the judge said. No, Nathan said, louder th. Is time. Lily isn't a bully. She was trying to help Noah study that night. I heard them from the other room. She was encouraging him. Monica just got angry that Lily's score was higher. There was no provocation. Lily is a good kid. Nathan, Monica shrieked, forgetting where she was. You traitor, you spineless loser. Order, the judge banged her gavel. Sit down, Mrs. Davis. But Monica didn't sit. The mask was gone. The rage that had been simmering beneath her beige cardigan boiled over. "He's lying," she screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "She bought him off. She controls everything with her money. She thinks she's better than us just because she has a degree and a house. She's trying to steal my husband. She's trying to steal my son." "Bailiff," the judge barked. 2 officers moved toward Monica. She was hyperventilating now, manic and unhinged. She had just proven my case better than any lawyer could have. She had shown the court exactly who she was, a volatile, jealous woman incapable of controlling her temper. "I am granting the permanent restraining order for a period of 5 years," Judge Holloway announced over Monica's shouting. "The respondent is to have 0 contact with the petitioner or the minor child, Lily Davis. This includes third-party contact. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Furthermore, I am recommending a psychiatric evaluation be added to the conditions of bail for the pending criminal charges." The gavel came down with a sound like a gunshot. Monica was escorted out of the courtroom, still screaming obscenities about me. Nathan didn't follow her. He sank back onto the bench, put his head in his hands, and wept. I looked at Sarah. She gave me a small, professional nod. We had won, but as I looked at my broken brother, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a rescue mission that had sustained heavy casualties. The fallout was swift and absolute. The eviction happened 3 days later. I didn't go. I hired a property management company to handle the turnover because legally, I couldn't be there if Monica was there, and I refused to put myself in that position again. According to the property manager, it was ugly. Monica refused to pack until the sheriff arrived to enforce the eviction order. They ended up putting most of their belongings on the curb. But Nathan wasn't with her. The day after the hearing, Nathan showed up at my door. He didn't have a suitcase. He just had a duffel bag and a look of profound exhaustion. "She kicked me out," he said, standing on the porch where this nightmare had begun. "Well, she tried to. We were at a motel. She went crazy, blaming me for everything. I left. I'm staying at a friend's place, but I needed to see you." I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, 2 survivors of a war we hadn't asked for. "I'm sorry," he said. He didn't make excuses this time. He didn't say, "But she's stressed." He just apologized. "I should have stopped it years ago. I saw how she treated Lily. I saw the jealousy. I was just too weak to fight her. I thought if I just kept quiet, it would go away." "It never goes away, Nathan," I told him. "It just grows in the dark." "I'm filing for divorce," he said. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. "I can't have Noah around that. The judge was right. She needs help, but I can't set myself on fire to keep her warm anymore." The criminal case took another 3 months to resolve. Because of the clear evidence, the medical records, the photos, and the courtroom outburst, Monica's lawyer advised her to take a plea deal. She pleaded no contest to misdemeanor assault. She was sentenced to 2 years of probation, mandatory anger management classes, and 100 hours of community service. It wasn't prison time, but the conviction meant she lost her status in the community. The PTA moms dropped her. The perfect image was shattered. She had a criminal record for hitting a child. That stain doesn't wash out. More importantly, the family court granted Nathan primary physical custody of Noah during the separation, citing Monica's instability and the pending investigation by CPS. Monica was allowed supervised visitation only. Noah flourished away from her pressure. Without his mother screaming over his shoulder, his anxiety decreased. He didn't turn into a genius overnight. He was still an average student, but he was a happy average student. He started drawing again. He started laughing. As for Lily, we sat on the floor of her bedroom a few weeks after the dust had settled. She was packing her backpack for her first day at the magnet school. The bruise on her cheek had long since faded, leaving no physical scar, though I knew the emotional one would take longer to heal. "Mom," she asked, pausing as she zipped up her bag. "Yeah, honey. Is Auntie Monica ever coming back?" No, I said firmly. She isn't. The judge made sure of that. You are safe. We are safe. Lil. Why nodded, a look of adult understanding in her young eyes. I'm glad Uncle Nathan is okay, though, and Noah. Me too, I said. We saved them in a way. I guess the math test was worth it, she joked, a small, wry smile touching her lips. I pulled her into a hug, burying my face in her hair. Nothing is worth you getting hurt, but I am so proud of you, not for the grade, but for being brave enough to tell me. Life went on. I repaired the rental house, new drywall, new paint, new carpets, and rented it to a nice young couple who were actually grateful for the below-market rate. Nathan got a small apartment nearby and started rebuilding his relationship with Noah. We still had scars. Family gatherings would never be the whole, big, happy events I had once dreamed of. There was an empty chair where a sister-in-law should have been, but the toxicity was gone. The fear was gone. I had learned that being a good sister didn't mean enabling abuse. Being a good person didn't mean being a doormat. I had drawn a line in the sand to protect my child, and when they crossed it, I didn't just push them back. I built a fortress. Sometimes you have to burn the family tree to save the roots. And looking at Lily, thriving in her new school, and Noah, smiling as he showed me his sketchbook, I knew I had made the right choice. I had no regrets. The only person living with regret now was the woman who thought she could hit my daughter and get away with it.